Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, get ready because today we are unpacking one of the absolutely most fascinating corporate maneuvers we've seen in the automotive world in a very, very long time. We're looking at Maruti Suzuki, literally the absolute titan of Indian roads, and we're analyzing their incredibly delayed, heavily scrutinized, yet deeply calculated entry into India's electric vehicle market. For years, industry watchers have just been scratching their heads wondering when this behemoth would finally make a move. I mean, they practically invented the modern Indian family road trip. Well, the wait is officially over. And the strategy they're rolling out, it's completely turning the traditional industry playbook upside down.
And this brings us right to the central mystery we're going to solve today. How exactly does the undisputed king of Indian roads plan to catch up, let alone conquer, a high-stakes, fast-moving space where it currently has absolutely zero dominance? Think about it. They're stepping onto a battlefield where the flags have already been planted by their biggest rivals. So to really understand how they plan to pull off this massive comeback, we have to look closely at where they started and exactly what they've been doing behind the scenes while everyone else was busy launching cars. All right, let's get right into Section 1, the Giant's EV problem and the paradox of dominance.
Okay, let's dive into this by first looking at what I like to call the paradox of Maruti's history. To really grasp the shock of their absence in the EV space, you have to look at the stark contrast of their legacy. On one hand, they've been the supreme ruler of India's passenger car segment since the pre-liberalization era. When local players entered the market, they couldn't beat Maruti. When India finally opened its markets to massive foreign players, even those global heavyweights couldn't dethrone the king. Maruti just effortlessly fended off everyone. But then, on the other hand, look at what happened when the electric vehicle revolution sparked. Despite being the largest car maker in India, they lagged completely behind. Up until right now, they've had absolutely zero presence in the EV market. Nothing.
Moving on to Section 2, India's booming EV market and visualizing the battlefield.
Because the thing is, this high-stakes EV space, it didn't sit around waiting for Maruti to wake up from its slumber. Just look at this number, 2.3 million. That massive figure represents the total EV unit sales reached in India in the year 2025 alone. The market has been growing at just a blistering pace. Consumers adapted, infrastructure slowly got built, and those 2.3 million units represent a massive shift in consumer behavior that Maruti completely missed out on during the initial wave.
But here's why Maruti actually isn't panicking, and why this is really just the beginning of the story. The overall EV adoption rate in India currently sits at about 8% of new vehicle registrations. That means a whopping 92% of the market is still entirely up for grabs. And by the year 2032, this market is projected to hit a staggering $17.88 billion. The pie is getting exponentially larger, and Maruti knows that if they can capture a slice of this future growth, well, their late start might just end up being a tiny footnote in history.
But to get that slice, Maruti now has to steal remaining market share from the established kings. If we take a snapshot of the market as of January 2026, Tata Motors leads the pack with an absolute stronghold. They're commanding over 50% of the market share. They grabbed that first-mover advantage and they just ran with it. The other 50%? That's fiercely contested by a mix of MG Motor, Mahindra, and a handful of others. So Maruti is basically walking into a room where one player is already sitting comfortably at the head of the table.
Let's break down exactly who these entrenched rivals are, because it's quite a lineup. Tata isn't just leading. They have hugely popular, established hits out on the road right now, like the Nexon EV, the Tiago EV, and the Punch EV. MG Motors has successfully deployed the Windsor, the Comet, and the ZS EV. Mahindra is pushing hard with their XUV 400, the BE6, and the XCV90. And it's not just domestic competition anymore either. The battlefield has gone global. BYD is rapidly gaining momentum in the premium segment, and global heavyweights like VinFast and even Tesla have newly joined the race. Make no mistake, this is a heavily fortified territory.
Which brings us to Section 3, the infrastructure-first strategy, the counteroffensive.
So how do you attack a fortified territory like that? Well, Maruti realized they had to completely flip the standard industry playbook. Literally, every other rival in the market followed the traditional path, right? Launch the cars first, get them out on the road to build hype, and kind of figure out the charging infrastructure along the way. Maruti's strategy: build a massive operational infrastructure moat before dropping a single EV into the consumer market. They wanted to ensure that when a customer finally bought a Maruti EV, the entire ecosystem needed to support it was already sitting there waiting for them.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer scale of this groundwork. It's staggering. Before launching a single car, Maruti quietly secured partnerships with 13 leading charge point operators and aggregators. They installed over 2,000 of their very own exclusive charging points across their sales and service networks in more than 1,100 cities.
But it gets better. They also deployed a massive 1.5 lakh trained EV workforce to serve customers and developed over 1,500 EV service workshops specifically for after-sales needs. They systematically solved the whole service and charging anxiety problem before the customer even had a chance to worry about it.
And they definitely aren't stopping there. Their future blueprint is incredibly aggressive. By 2030, Maruti aims to enable more than 1 lakh public charging points. Their ultimate goal is to have EV chargers available at an average distance of just 5 to 10 kilometers at key locations across the top 100 cities in India. Plus, they're actively installing DC fast chargers at regular intervals along the major highways. They are systematically working to just eliminate range anxiety entirely, making charging an electric vehicle exactly as accessible and mundane as stopping for traditional fuel.
All right, moving into Section 4, launching the EV Tara, the Trojan horse.
Because as you'll see, all of that massive infrastructure was really just the foundation. The stage was set, the safety nets were securely in place, and now, meet the EV Tara. Maruti Suzuki is officially in the game. With the launch of their very first electric vehicle, the giant has fully awakened and stepped into the fray. This isn't just a concept car, folks, it's the tip of the spear. It is a Trojan horse built exactly to utilize that massive web of charging points and trained mechanics we were just talking about.
So let's talk numbers and look at the financial positioning of the EV Tara. They're entering the market with a base ex-showroom price of 15.99 lakh rupees, scaling up to 20.01 lakh rupees for the top model. This pricing is brilliant because it drops the EV Tara right into the most intensely competitive segment of the Indian automotive market. They aren't trying to build some niche ultra-luxury vehicle, and they definitely aren't making a bare-bones budget car. No, they are aiming directly at the mass premium middle, challenging those incumbent models from Tata and MG right where they live.
Finally, Section 5, Designing the Future Roadmap. Your turn to steer. We've seen the historical paradox, the intense rival dominance, and Maruti's massive calculated infrastructure-first counteroffensive. Now I want to turn the strategic lens over to you. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. If you were sitting in the chair as the India head of Maruti, what is your EV roadmap for the next 3 years? What exact market share are you aiming for by 2029? But more importantly, what are 5 brand new initiatives, things Maruti hasn't even done yet, that you would launch to actually surpass entrenched rivals like Tata Motors? Think about how you would win the future, and let this thought experiment guide your understanding of just how complex this EV race has really become. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the strategy.